In the heart of Tokyo, there exists a narrow passageway. Locals call it Kuchisake Koji, means whispering alley. It's barely 2 meters wide, wedged between two buildings in the historic Asakusa district. It isn't marked on maps, and GPS systems can't detect it. Most people pass it by without a second glance. But those who notice it and enter are never quite the same again. There's a legend passed down by night shift workers and elderly street vendors. If you walk through the alley after 2 a.m., you'll hear someone whisper your name from the dark. If you turn around, the voice follows you home. If you ignore it, you'll never hear anything again, not even your own voice. Most chalk it up to a silly urban myth. But for one woman, the alley was far more than a rumor. Yuki Tanaka was a 29-year-old office worker, what the Japanese call a salarywoman. She worked for a mid-level advertising agency near Ueno Park. Late nights were part of the job, and she often walked home alone after the last train had already left. She had lived in Tokyo her whole life. She wasn't superstitious, though she knew many of the city's darker folk tales. Stories of faceless spirits in bathrooms, cursed videotapes, and vengeful ghosts clinging to tunnels. But she didn't believe them, until one night in early October, when she made a mistake she would never forget. It was 2:19 a.m. Yuki had just finished a pitch deck and left the office with tired eyes. The wind had picked up, rattling plastic signs and rustling papers across the sidewalks. Her heels clicked against the concrete as she passed familiar shops, all closed and dark. Then she noticed something strange. Between an old bookstore and an abandoned ramen shop was a gap she'd never seen before. It was thin, like the space between two tightly parked cars. A low rusted sign above the entrance read, Kuchisake Koji. Her heart skipped. She paused. Whispering Alley, she murmured, recognizing the name from a story her grandmother once told her when she was a child. A place you should never enter. But the alley seemed oddly inviting. A faint bluish glow came from deep within, like a flickering lantern. It was cold, much colder than the rest of the street. And then, something whispered, Yuki. She froze. Was that the wind? No, it was a voice, and it had said her name. Into the alley. Yuki turned toward the alley and took a hesitant step forward. Yuki. There it was again. Closer now. She pulled her coat tight and took another step in. The city sounds fell away, replaced by absolute silence. The walls of the alley were covered in black mold and peeling paper talismans. The floor was damp and sticky beneath her shoes. She looked back. The entrance had vanished. Behind her was a brick wall. Her breath caught in her throat. Suddenly, a cold rush of air blew past her ears, and the whisper returned, clear and sharp. Do you want to be pretty like me? She turned. A woman stood at the end of the alley, her back turned. She wore a long red coat. Her hair was black and stringy, hanging down her back like wet seaweed. Yuki's knees weakened. Who are you? She asked. The woman slowly turned around. Her face was half covered by a white medical mask. The woman whispered, Am I beautiful? Yuki couldn't answer. The woman's hand moved up and slowly removed her mask. Her mouth, no, her entire jaw, was sliced open from ear to ear. Her teeth were jagged and bloodstained. Flesh hung from her cheeks like ribbons. Yuki screamed. The woman raised a pair of rusty scissors. Yuki turned and ran. She slammed into the walls, scratched her hands on rusted metal and torn posters, but kept going. The whispering grew louder, joined by giggles, sobs, and someone humming a broken lullaby. She didn't remember how she got out, only that she suddenly burst back onto the main road, panting, hands shaking, her coat torn and face scratched. The alley was gone. In its place was a solid wall again. She flagged down a passing taxi and returned home, heart still thudding in her chest. She didn't sleep that night. Over the following days, Yuki began to change. She stopped talking to her co-workers. She jumped at every sudden noise. She kept hearing her name whispered when no one was around. And her reflection, it wasn't right. In the mirror, her face seemed a little longer. Her mouth stretched unnaturally when she smiled. And some nights, her own reflection would move a second too late, staring back at her with wide, twitching eyes. She even found paper talismans appearing on her apartment walls, ones she never placed. One morning, she woke up to find a small red mark across her cheek. It looked like the start of a cut. She quit her job and returned to her parents' countryside home. But even there, the whispers came at night. Her mother found her standing outside in the dark one evening, barefoot in the garden, holding a pair of rusted scissors. "I need to be pretty," she said. 3 months after the alley encounter, Yuki was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. She had stopped speaking completely. Nurses said she stared at her reflection in spoons and window panes for hours at a time, silently mouthing words no one could hear. One night, she vanished from her locked room. The only clue left behind was a white medical mask, soaked in blood. A nurse claimed to have seen her walking barefoot down the hallway, just before 3 a.m., whispering someone's name. No one has seen Yuki since. Today, rumors of Kuchisake Koji still circulate in Tokyo. Most people dismiss it as another urban ghost story, like Hanako-san or Teke. But every few months, someone vanishes without a trace in the Asakusa district. And those who walk the streets late at night say they sometimes hear whispers coming from an alley that shouldn't exist. Some elders advise, if you hear it, don't turn around, and whatever you do, don't answer. In the weeks following Yuki's disappearance, whispers of the tall woman began to spread again. This time, not just as myth, but as something real. Locals described her as impossibly tall, nearly 7 feet, with a slim, almost inhuman frame. Her long red coat dragged behind her like a second shadow, and her black hair hung in strands that clung to her pale, rotting skin. Some claimed her legs didn't move when she walked. She glided, just above the ground, the scissors in her hand dragging along the walls, screeching like nails on glass. But it was her face that cursed the memory of anyone who saw it. Beneath her white mask, once worn to blend in during her time among the living, was a mouth split wide open, a smile carved with violence and hate. The wounds never healed. The edges of her mouth bled fresh every night, dripping onto her coat, onto the alley walls, onto the dreams of those who hear her. They say she was once a woman scorned during the Edo period, punished for vanity, betrayed by her lover, and disfigured by a jealous rival. Blinded by revenge and sorrow, she wandered into that alley and died alone. But the alley didn't forget her. Now she waits in Kuchisake Koji, seeking beauty in others, or tearing it from them. And if you hear her whisper your name from the dark, you're already too late.